And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to Jenny Beth Martin from the Tea Party Patriots. And Jenny Beth, we just had you on, but we love to have you back when we heard that you were at the White House recently.
Well, I'm so glad to be back with you, and I was at the White House on Wednesday afternoon.
Well, you have to spill the beans. Tell us about it.
Okay, so there were several different leaders of conservative groups, and actually former Congressman Raul Labrador was in the room as well. And we met in the cabinet room with the Vice President and President Trump. We talked about the vote that was to happen yesterday, which has since happened. And President Trump really was urging everyone to continue to stand strong and to stay unified behind the actions that he's taking to work to secure the border.
Well, when did you get the message, and what was that like for you?
It was a good meeting. I appreciated the opportunity to listen to the president and also to ask him a few questions about immigration policy and what was in the Senate bill specifically. Not so much because of the Senate bill, but just the direction of where things are going. Our supporters at Tea Party Patriots Action voted to support the president's newest proposal that he released last weekend and to support the Senate bill in order to give him the leeway to continue to negotiate and work to secure the border. And I told him that. And I also asked a bit about what's going on with asylum down at the border right now, because he mentioned how people can essentially be coached into reading a specific phrase, and once they read that phrase, then they're treated as potential refugees and allowed into the country. And I think that they are being coached, that there are people who are being coached who really don't qualify for asylum under our asylum laws. And so I was asking a little bit about that. The Senate bill does address that when it comes to children. It does not yet address, or it did not address it with adults yet.
Yeah. What was it like, though, to be thought so highly of, that your group and what you do? And we did report that you were there, and former Congressman Labrador, our great friend, was there as well. But not everybody gets a chance to ask the question to the president and such. I mean, you're a grassroots girl. What was going on in your mind?
One thing that went through my mind on February 20th, that is going to mark the 10th anniversary of the very first phone call that started the organization of the Tea Party movement. And I looked around the room and I saw former Congressman Labrador and others with some other organizations who existed prior to the Tea Party movement. And I just was thinking, this is kind of amazing. A decade ago, I never would have imagined sitting so close to the Oval Office, sitting in a room with the president and the vice president, and knowing that I was in there to talk about and to reflect what our grassroots have to say. And this past Sunday night, we have a call every single Sunday night with our local leaders from around the country. And we talked about what the president had proposed and did the things that we normally do, and they voted to support it. And at the end of that call, several of them thanked me for listening and for making sure that they all had the opportunity to express themselves and to think through how we would address the proposal. And I walked into that room knowing that I was representing and accurately representing what our grassroots supporters care about and want. It wasn't just me making a decision from on high. And I thought it was amazing that the grassroots have that kind of voice in the White House. And I was I am very humbled by that.
Boy, we've never seen that before, have we? That the grassroots have a seat at the table, or have we?
I think that Heritage was in the room, for instance, and Heritage certainly nurtures and has for a very long time grassroots conservatives around the country. Their model is different than ours, and there's nothing wrong with it. They've been around for a very, very long time, and I lean on Heritage for a lot of knowledge and research. But just the way that we handle things is different than other organizations. I couldn't even answer the media on Saturday about how our organization felt about the president's proposal till we checked with the grassroots. And being able to tell the president, here's what our grassroots are saying, and here are some questions that they have. It's an amazing thing to be able to do that, but I could not do it. I would not be able to do that without every supporter of not just Tea Party Patriots, but of the Tea Party movement over the last decade. And we're all in this together. We have different roles, and I take my role seriously, and that is to reflect what the grassroots think and to listen to them.
Well, it's a great responsibility. Jenny Beth Martin joining us, Tea Party Patriots. If people want information on joining or doing something for the group, what can they do?
Well, you can go to teapartypatriots.org and click to sign up on our email list. And when we send emails, generally when people reply to those emails, they come straight to me. They go to a few other people on the team, but I read those emails at least once a week. I don't always reply to everyone. But if you want a voice, if you care about this country and want a voice with a conservative grassroots movement, sign up at teapartypatriots.org. And we'll give you weekly and sometimes daily action items so that we can help make a difference, support the president, support border security, and other conservative values.
Jenny Beth, what does the media get wrong about the President of the United States? You were in the room with him. I mean, you saw him physically. So can you parlay that to us here on KIDO Talk Radio?
I think that what they get wrong is, gosh, there's so much that they get wrong. But I think that the biggest thing that they get wrong is that they don't understand him, and they talk and report about him from especially the Washington, D.C. media, from the prism of other politicians and other presidents. And that's not what he is. He's a businessman. So if you run a business or we think differently. Business people think differently than politicians. We think, okay, here's what we've got to do. How do we go about getting it done? Let's get it done. We don't have time to waste. We don't want to waste money. We want to make money. And I think that a lot of times politicians are playing the games and negotiating and figuring out how they can affect each of their constituencies so they hold on to power. And so and they talk different and more deliberately. And I think that difference more than anything else really rattles the press and makes it very difficult for them to be able to report and to understand how he thinks.
Well, they certainly are out to get him. What is his view of the Democrats and their obstructionists? What does he say? What has he said to you in the meeting? And, it's funny. You were kind of there with people that have been on this show for many, many years, including yourself, Stephen Moore, Raul Labrador, folks from also other people from the Heritage. So it's interesting. You're almost like our little fly on the wall here, Jenny Beth Martin.
It was, one of the most amazing things and interesting things is that I had to check my phone as soon as I walked into the White House, so I could not have those with me, which means I actually got the report that Speaker Pelosi was refusing to allow the president to get the State of the Union from the vice president, which that's kind of interesting. But it was because I did not have my phone, so I didn't get alerts and wasn't just glued to it like I normally am. And then the press came in at the very beginning of our meeting, and the president said they just want to hear what I have to say about this situation with Speaker Pelosi, even though they were just with me in another meeting an hour ago. And I think that he's very, very frustrated because the president, is making a good faith effort to negotiate, to go to the table, to work on border security, to keep his promise. And the Democrats are not. They're not doing that at all. He didn't say, but it just seems to me that their hatred of anything that the president does is so strong that it's clouding their judgment for what's best for the country. I think it frustrates the president. He surely seemed frustrated by what was going on with the State of the Union.
How important is the wall?
I think of the wall. Well, I just got back from the border last week. The wall is important from a security standpoint, for the main purpose of being able to funnel people into the country at particular designated places so there's an orderly process for Customs and Border Patrol to check to see who's coming into our country. That does not mean, and the president is not even saying we have to have a wall from the coast in California to the Gulf in Texas, but there are places where foot traffic is so high that we need to make sure that we are securing that. It helps keep our Border Patrol agents and Customs safe because they can focus where they need to focus, and it's easier to patrol areas where a wall exists. And also, it makes sure that it keeps our country safe. We know who is coming in and have the chance to interview them the same way that we would if they're coming in from an airplane. So I think that it's very important from a border security standpoint, along with additional personnel, which the president is asking for, technology to detect narcotics and weapons, which also the president is asking for. And he's also asking for additional beds for the influx of border crossers, along with medical supplies and infrastructure to help take care of them. So he's offering a bipartisan, broad border security proposal, and the Democrats are just refusing to negotiate.
Jenny Beth Martin, your website one more time, please. TeaPartyPatriots.org. Again, TeaPartyPatriots.org. Well, thank you very much for joining us once again. We appreciate it, and glad you're back from the East Coast.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for having me again, Kevin.
Okay, take care now. All right, Jenny Beth Martin. Let's go to Doug in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. I just had one quick comment, and then you won't have to deal with me anymore.
Oh boy.
I listened to your interview of the Fox reporter in the latest surveys.
Yes,
and
sir.
It would be interesting to do a correlation and dig deeper into all that, because from where I sit and what I read every day, Kevin, there is a correlation between people's confidence in the economy, people's hope for the future, and the day of the election last fall. When Pelosi and her team took over the House, people took a deep breath. And the agenda being pushed today in the House is singularly focused. And it's not a wonder that the economy is going to shake a little bit. I mean, I'm very confident in the fundamentals, but I'm not confident in what the bills that have to begin, the spending bills that have to begin in the House, what in fact is going to happen to our economy if we're going to have this gridlock that we're experiencing today for another 2 years. So even with this base, I think there's a lack of confidence, not necessarily in him, but in the general economy, because the agenda by the loyal opposition is very challenging. So I thought it might be something you and your more expert viewers might want to dig into.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Doug, and we'll throw that out to folks and see if anybody bites on that.
Okay, good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye. And we appreciate Doug joining us. You can join us as well, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And what we're basically seeing with Nancy Pelosi, with the government shutdown, is the efforts to derail the president. Now, if you're just tuning in this morning, Roger Stone, and we've had Roger Stone on this program many, many times, has been arrested by Robert Mueller. Now, let me apologize in advance for being petty. Apparently, the FBI agents that aren't getting paid, Roger Stone was that much of a national security threat that they went to his house and stormed in, pounded on the door, everything else. Now, here's what I don't understand. First off, let's just take a listen to Griff Jenkins breaking this down on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio.
This is very fluid. We're learning more. It does not accuse Stone of coordinating or colluding with the Russians in this investigation, which was the premise of the Mueller investigation. However, it does lay bare the false statements that Stone has made to not only one, but 3 investigations.
So here's what we have. We have Roger Stone, flamboyant, outspoken. By the way, if you're a Netflix person, Get Me Roger Stone is a must view. I'm sure Netflix is very happy because that documentary will be going skyrocketing through the roof with the streams and the views and everything else. But Roger Stone has been around in hardball politics for years. And Roger Stone is certainly no one to be trifled with. So how did the FBI come in to arrest Roger Stone? Did they call him up and say, Mr. Stone, we'd like you to come in. You're going to be arrested, indicted, whatever. No. 2:33 in the morning, heavily armed agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation pounded on his door, weapons drawn, demanding that Stone come out, and took him away. Now, Roger Stone, at 66 years old, does not pose a specific risk of giving anybody a judo chop, I don't think. But this is Mueller wanting to embarrass and humiliate Mr. Stone. And coming up next, we'll hear from Roger Stone. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
No matter how much pressure they put on me, no matter what they say, I will not bear false witness against Donald Trump. I will not do what Michael Cohen has done and make up lies to ease the pressure on myself.
There you have it, Roger Stone from an earlier interview saying, I'm not going to be a rat, I'm not flipping. Big top story today, Roger Stone arrested, hauled away like El Chapo. Is this any way for folks to treat law-abiding, God-fearing, innocent until proven guilty Americans? And by the way, do you think that the FBI needed all those agents, with all due respect to the FBI and to law enforcement, to go in and stuff and cuff the guy? No, again, this is the heavy-handed approach of Mueller and his group of overzealous prosecutors that did support Hillary Clinton, number one. And number two, let me just say this. I can remember, and how many of you remember our friend Troy? You remember Troy. Well, Kevin, there are a lot of Troys. Well, Troy was a young man that loved little doggies. And I believe this happened in Jefferson County, Idaho, which I never thought there was a Jefferson County. So you had this guy who was leaving these puppies, I'm not making the story up, these puppies out in the cold. Troy heard about it. He went there, rescued the puppies. Then the guy called the Jefferson County Sheriff. And then, what was that guy's name? Boise Police Chief Masterson. Former Chief Masterson had people come to Troy's house. And I remember when we used to have Chief Masterson on, he didn't like that I asked him that question. I go, was it really necessary at 3 a.m. with the SWAT team to come in and arrest a guy that saved puppies? And eventually Troy went back, paid the guy some money to save these little precious puppies' lives. Now, there are a lot of good people in the police. We love the police. I admire the police. If I was a man, I'd be a policeman. But I'm not, so there you go. However, what in the world are they doing arresting Roger Stone like this? KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:26. Traffic and weather together.
7's Larry Gebert.
And from Larry Gebert to Liberal Steve with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Buenos dias, Idaho. Admit nothing, deny everything, and launch a counterattack. That's an exact, widely known quote by Mr. Stone. In fact, he refers to himself as the dirty trickster.
The black arts, the dark arts.
The dark arts. And he is exactly 30 days younger than me.
Right. So that would be like the FBI coming in and grabbing you by the scruff of your neck and hauling you away. How would you like that?
Yes, I would enjoy it. I know they're doing their job and they're working right.
You would enjoy some man waking you up at 3 a.m. when you're in your pajamas and hauling you away. You would enjoy that.
I don't wear jammies. I sleep in my birthday suit, period.
Be careful, sir. This is a family-friendly show. Keep you and your birthday suit's thoughts to yourself.
Anyway, I'm so excited. That dirty trickster. 7 indictments against the guy. I hope they slammed his face into the wall and his wig flew off.
Nothing to do from a man who wears a wig, Liberal Steve. That's not, living in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. You've worn a wig a time or two.
Only when Santa showed up in town.
By the way, nothing having to do with the Russian case. Nothing to do with Russian collusion. Again, the deep state strikes. This is nothing more than the deep state attacking.
As it should be, and clean up America and get rid of the filth and the dirt and the billionaires that stole them. Just like Beth that you had on earlier today.
Jenny Beth Martin. She was a personal guest at the White House along with Congressman Labrador. This is what this show does to get the big gets here, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. She filed bankruptcy along with her husband in 2009 on their house that they had, a house that was 10 times bigger than they needed. And then she turned herself completely around, stayed with the Republicans, whose, by the way, mouths can hold more than their bellicans, and she worked her way all the way up. She's just another, and she voted no when it came to Puerto Rico filing bankruptcy for reorganization on some things. She voted no, but yet she got bankruptcy in 2009. She clawed her way back up to the top. What a loser. And I'm so excited. Things are going the direction they should be, and we'll get back to being a great America.
Back to Libville, is that right?
No.
Back to Libville is what it is.
We'll get back to
Libby, Libville.
We'll get back to the right way to live.
Right.
No name calling, no nothing. Good neighbors. America's going to be great again since the Trump agency has taken it down into the dirt. You stay fired up, Miller, and have a great Friday, you Republican whose mouth can hold more than his bellykin. Love ya.
Scott in Boise. Good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Scott.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate what you do. I just wanted to say that I'm really disappointed in our government as far as being a Republican and being a conservative. I feel as if before the Democrats took the House, it was the Republicans that were fighting against the president's agenda, and now it just has changed sides. And I feel like it's just one big conspiracy in the government to thwart the president's efforts. And that's all I wanted to say, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And running late to the ever-available Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Rachel, my apologies. Good morning.
Oh, no worries. Hey, Kevin.
So the government shut down. The Senate tried to reopen the government, and not so fast, my friend.
That's right. The two proposals that they were looking at yesterday failed as expected. That wasn't expected to pass the Senate. One of them is based on the president's plan. The other one would have opened the government for about 2 weeks, but it didn't include any border money. And then late yesterday, there was an idea floated by the president to reopen the government for 3 weeks, but he wants a down payment on the border wall. Not sure how much money that is. And it looked like at the first glance at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was not having that. So right now, they could today start working on this plan, maybe start some real negotiations and take real votes. But even if they get cracking on it today, I don't see how they're going to get the government reopened until next week. It'd have to be moving at light speed, and Congress has a way of not doing that.
Right. And when we take a look at getting it back together and getting things rolling, it just seems like the momentum continues to move towards more of a shutdown.
It does, except that this is a pivot. It takes a lot to get a ship turned around sometimes. And this is definitely a pivot with the president going back with a second offer. And so he can eventually start making the case that, look, I'm offering these plans and I'm negotiating. I'm even willing to just say, let's do a down payment. It doesn't have to be the whole $5.7 billion. And he can then claim they're being obstructionists. But at the end of the day, really both sides need to save face here because both sides have been so entrenched. And I don't know where they get that. It can't be one just completely capitulating. That would be pretty much a political nightmare. Say Nancy Pelosi were to completely give in or President Trump were to completely give in. So that can't be the case. But it appears, I mean, Speaker Pelosi just seemed to have none of it. She doesn't want a wall at all. But, you know, one of the plans they voted on yesterday, the president's plan, actually doesn't have the phrase border wall in it. It's a steel structure, so or steel fencing. So it's become just this real hotbed issue. And I really can't predict it. We're on day 35. Yesterday I went out to a food kitchen here in D.C. They're feeding federal workers for free, and they're not only doing that, they're giving away diapers. They have legal advice, a lawyer there on hand. They have utility companies out there so that people can come in and try to negotiate payments to keep their lights on and stuff like that. And people think, oh, people inside the Beltway, they're not hurting. They make a lot of money. But federal workers include people who are assistants to executives that maybe make maybe $60 a year, which sounds like a lot, but in D.C. isn't. And today is the second missed paycheck. Some of these folks I've talked to, one man, he said he does live paycheck to paycheck, so this is really tough. Others I talked to do have a little cushion, but it's a wide variety of people who work for the federal government.
Right, and again, as you know, D.C. is such an expensive place to live.
Yeah. Tell me about
it. Finally, the breaking news this morning, Roger Stone.
Yeah, that did break, and apparently in the wee hours of the morning, not sure exactly what time, it was still dark, FBI agents raided the home of Roger Stone, longtime associate of President Trump. And the indictment, I've been reading through it, appears to suggest that he lied to the Select Committee on Intelligence over in the House about his contacts with WikiLeaks. And also, interestingly, there's somebody, an associate of Stone, who he called, or Mueller calls an intermediary. It's just described as Person 2. Person 2 is a radio personality. I want to know who that is.
Uh-oh. Hmm.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Kevin? So, anyway, look, but this, as far as I'm reading in the indictment, it's there's still no smoking gun yet as far as, like, this is definitely a collusion. You'd have to connect the dots between WikiLeaks and Russia specifically and connect it all the way around to the president. I just don't think they quite have it yet. But this development with Roger Stone, there are some saying, look, this is just another procedural kind of indictment. It's based on saying he lied, based on obstruction, obstructing the committee. But still, it's a significant development. I don't think it's something that we can not report on.
Rachel Sutherland, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
And before we get to your phone calls, I do want to say to the people that are working without a paycheck, we're sorry. Sorry that, in my opinion, both sides have let you down. You know, we pride ourselves on being fair. Look, we have an opinion. I have an opinion. Not everybody agrees with my opinion. I had a chance to do another podcast yesterday with Tommy Ahlquist. One of those was with Mike Moyle, House Majority Leader. The other was with Matt Erpelding, House Minority Leader. We don't agree on everything. But one thing that we do agree on is people should not be working for free. And the people that are working for free and that are just putting their chin strap on and going to work, all I can say is thank you. It may seem like a futile gesture, but all I can say is thank you. We should not be vilifying people that are working without a paycheck. How many times have we said if people had some initiative, some incentive, that's got to blank people off to be working without a paycheck. So I will say this, thank a Fed. Thank you. Hank in Boise, appreciate your patience. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. The tactics that Mueller used, I refer to you to Robert Conquest's book, The Great Terror, about the Stalinist terror of 1937 and 38. The tactic of knocking on doors with drawn guns, coming in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning was the standard operating procedure for the NKVD. And it's sort of appropriate that the Democrat Party and the Democrats behave like all leftists do with these kinds of tactics. I'm amazed, that of course that was Roger Stone's sin, was that he basically challenged the rightful ruling party, the Democrat, their rightful right to rule this country. If anybody who knocks them out of that is a usurper, and the disease then deserves the full punishment of the state. It's the same kind of mentality. I mean, I don't see a lot of difference between this sort of stuff. All the other book you can refer if you want to get into more details about it. Then I wouldn't be surprised if they interrogated Mr. Stone in the middle of the morning, 2 or 3 or 4. That was another standard procedure of the NKVD. Refer to you to Solzhenitsyn's The Gulag Archipelago. Exact same behavior, and that's no exaggeration. That's to the T. I mean, these people are dangerous. This is the great party of Mayor Beater and the North End. The people hug and love and put their little Pete 1% live and live there. This is the part they for. I think it's despicable. I think that Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these are despicable. So I'll hit that. Thank you, Hank. Sorry your phone was smacking out on us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number's here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. This whole issue of Roger Stone being arrested, it had nothing to do with Russian collusion. The FBI came in and at 2 or 3 in the morning pounded on his door demanding that Roger Stone surrender himself to authorities.
No matter how much pressure they put on me, no matter what they say, I will not bear false witness against Donald Trump. I will not do what Michael Cohen has done and make up lies to ease the pressure on myself.
Your reaction next. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Kurt in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Kurt.
Morning, Kevin. Hey, I just wanted to kind of agree with Hank that the tactics that the Democrats are using are almost communist or Nazi-like because they got the media, just like Hitler used the media, and now they got the strong arms coming in. And this isn't the first time the FBI has raided somebody's house that's really not dangerous at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Very alarming, very disturbing. And like I said, remember what they did to Paul Manafort. They went through his home, tore everything up, went through his offices, went through Michael Cohen's offices. When you're thinking, well, some things are privileged and apparently not when it comes to Mueller.
Right, exactly. So, Hannity talked about how it's just going to be crazy after the Democrats took over, and it's already turning that way. Pelosi is just crazy, just like John was saying. They're out doing stuff, and they're not even thinking about the government, let alone the employees that they're totally responsible for putting out of work.
Well, and they're very comfortable with that, Kurt, because they have the media backing them up, promoting their stories, having people on, promoting the negative.
We're on the same page here. It's just a giant, well, I don't want to say conspiracy because it's not, but it's just a giant movement taking our government away from our people. They're just trying to strong-arm us into believing the fake news like the Nazis did and using the communist tactics to scare everybody. I mean, when Obama was in there, we couldn't even buy ammunition. So now, with Trump in, we can get good deals on things to arm ourselves with. But if the Democrats take control again, you know what's going to happen. All those rights are going to go away.
Well, and they have us to a point where you can't even wear a baseball hat.
I know it. I totally agree. I thought it was a great discussion the other day when the one caller called in, and I know myself, I couldn't stand there and not say something back. These young men should be pillars of the community because they totally had self-control when anybody else would just go ballistic. These black guys, my son goes to Boise School District. There's black kids in there now, and I'm not trying to sound racist, but they call them stupid white boys. Do you think anything happens to these other black people that are calling our kids stupid white boys? No. But if our kids said something derogatory about their color of skin, they would be called racist. So when what are they called, the black Hebrew Israelites, that were antagonizing these young men from a Catholic college or high school, and they didn't do anything, I think they should be put up, not on a pedestal, but showed as people that have very good self-control. And I thought the lawyer was fantastic that made these people back up and retract their stories about what they were saying about them.
I agree. And sadly, I feel bad for your kids, but that happens all across the country, and now reverse racism has come to Idaho.
I know it. And you know what? I was thinking maybe we should somehow, I don't know, but say, I'm a proud white man, but we'd probably be called the Ku Klux Klan again.
That's the thing. You can promote any group except white men.
That's absolutely right, brother. I remember, I'm 63 years old. I remember growing up, and Father Knows Best, and My Three Sons, and Leave It to Beaver were the kind of TV shows. I don't know what happened in the 60s and 70s. All of a sudden, the father was the dumb guy, especially if you were white. You were just ridiculed and made fun of on national TV. What happened to the country in the last 60 years? I don't get it.
Well, like my dad likes to say, the majority of your life, you had a good run. For those of us that are just a little bit younger, we're more sensitive to the extremes, and you see it on television now and everything else. And it's unfortunate the lessons being taught to people, white privilege, white this, that vilifying people. And look, Kurt, for years, I was the guy that cable television would call when they wanted someone to defend the indefensible, and we see where it is, unfortunately. We have to have prayer. We have to continue to support each other, because if not, they will pick us off one by one.
Exactly. I mean, especially the generations coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand. I think what's going on in our country now, maybe I'm totally wrong, but just as Rome fell, because they were letting in all these other, and I'm not trying to be a racist, but all these other cultures and all these other groups of people that ate away at the foundations of their country, all of a sudden the Romans, well, of course, we know what happened with, Caesar getting killed and all that, but I think their society got eaten away that built Rome, just like our society is getting eaten away by the people that built our country. And I'm not trying to be racist again, but it was mostly white guys. So I just don't know what's going on anymore.
Well, Kurt, we appreciate you calling in and listening, brother. Keep the faith.
All right. Oh, no, I got it, brother. Thank you so much for your show.
Thank you. And we'll talk about that in a minute. First, traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio.
Channel 7's Larry Gabbard.
Thank you, Larry. We appreciate you. But back to what Kurt's saying, yes, it's crazy. We were talking a little bit about it yesterday, that if you wear a Make America Great hat, you're a racist. And the media will give you cover. It is crazy. Top story, Roger Stone arrested, taken out of his home by the FBI, unpaid FBI agents, early in the morning. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But back to this point about race and just having the Dr. King holiday, we're supposed to judge people by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And look, I've been in several markets throughout the country, blessed to be here, my home now in Star, Idaho, in the Treasure Valley. But I can remember debating people older than me, more set in their ways than me on cable television. And, I can remember saying, well, nobody feels sorry for the poor, pitiful white guy. I don't understand the world we live in today, where one gender of one race is blamed for the entirety of the problems that we have today. Look at what they did at Notre Dame with Christopher Columbus, right? We've got to find something to laugh about, right? Truth is too troubling. Stay tuned.